Hello, everybody. Welcome to Most Wanted Topics. I'm your host, Kevin. Along with me is the mighty Mafu.
Back again.
Mighty Mafu. How you doing today?
Well, I'm doing good. How about you?
You know what? The tank over here is doing good. We're back in action. We had a week off. We had to recover from the hacksaw Jim Duggan signing. Boy, was that epic.
Yeah. Super nice
great.
guy.
2x4s all around. Autographs being had. Selfies were a lot of fun. And now we're on to this week. Boy, I tell you what, we just don't stop. We are going full throttle. Saturday, the 24th. We have Xander Cannon in, author and writer. In fact, he's got a new book from Image Comics coming out
which
this week
we will
on Wednesday
have
called Sleep. It's a horror book by Image Comics. We will be carrying it at Most Wanted Comics in Bloomington. So make sure on Saturday you come out and meet the man himself. He will be in the store signing autographs, doing sketches, whatever you want. Feel free to come in between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. And it should be a fun day with him.
Should be.
And it's also Memorial Day weekend, so there'll be a lot of things going on. We did have a cancellation. Unfortunately, Jimmy Hart cannot be there on Sunday. Jimmy Hart was going to be at our store on Sunday, but he cannot make it due to a scheduling conflict and other obligations. So he will do a makeup at our store. We will have a later announcement when we get that date finalized. So with housekeeping out of the way, we have a jam-packed show for you guys today.
Yes, we do.
We are going to, first, we're going to kick it off with talk about some toys. And you have a line of toys you don't want people to sleep on, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then coming up, we brought back a fan favorite. We have Dan the Amazing Spider-Man fan coming to debate. Coming to debate Atomic Tommy on top Spider-Man movies.
Well, we'll see how that turns out.
We'll see how that turns out. So jam-packed show. Of course, we'll do our shout-outs at the end.
Of course. I mean, that's a must.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. Let's jump in. You want to explain a line of toys that people shouldn't sleep on at Most Wanted Comics?
No. So the line that I'm telling you that you should not sleep on is Valaverse Action Force. Now, if you're a fan of G.I. Joe or military toy lines, then you're really going to love Action Force because it is a military toy line and just the level of detail that Valaverse pulls off, like with this Urban Commando. I mean, just look at the amazing detail on just the gas mask, and the vests are removable, so you can kit bash. And just look at the Steel Brigade. Look at that chromed head. A chromed head on a Steel Brigade. How crazy is that? And the guns, they are accurate to real life military, to my knowledge, and they are compatible with the G.I. Joe Classifieds, another 6-inch good military toy line that, again, if you like Classified, then you're gonna love Action Force.
Is now the 6-inch Valaverse, I mean, as far as comparing it to the G.I. Joe line, is it because they have more weapons and more accessories than the Classified that makes them better, or is there something about the articulation factor, or about the sturdiness of the toy? I like that they come with their own stands.
Yes, so they still have the double jointed articulation, just like G.I. Joe, but they do. Some of the Classified figures do come with a lot of extra accessories, but Valaverse, they have 3 magazines. Now with the new Series 5, they have grenades with some of the troopers. But again, they come with their basic standard issue weapon. They come with a sidearm. Some of them come with a backpack, like this Urban Commando. Sometimes with interchangeable heads. Again, that removable vest, so you could kit bash. A knife always.
And extra magazines, you said. And so it does look like they all are pretty well stocked with accessories, too, to make them have different looks to them.
Yeah, and the holsters are, again, removable, so a lot of kit bashing options here with the Valaverse.
It is a little more expensive, but
more, but not too much.
If you are really into the figures and you're really into detail and accuracy, G.I. Joe is great, but Valaverse is just another step above. You're going to pay a little more for these, but keep in mind the quality is fantastic.
Pretty good.
What about the vehicle lines? Do they have vehicles for these guys?
Only the Vanguard, which fits, again, the 6-inch Valaverse figures and has a rocket launcher, and a machine gun.
Are they coming out with more?
Yes, I believe so, to my knowledge. But they do have weapons packs. Valaverse brought out with the weapons packs, which you don't really see a lot of nowadays. So that's really cool. And again, these guns, like you can take this assault rifle on this urban commando and give it to Duke, or Snake Eyes. And you just want Snake Eyes to throw away the sword and the gun for a while, and just have him have a rocket launcher.
You can cross over with Valaverse and G.I. Joe, and you get just an awesome toy line. So, Matt, Mighty Mafu, thank you for the Valaverse Don't Sleep on It section. That was
I would highly recommend these figures if you like G.I. Joe.
Yeah, and make sure you check out Valaverse.
Did you have him a website? Valaverse.com?
Yeah, check out their website. They have just cool toys. And don't sleep on it. If you're an action figure collector, Valaverse is just another line of toys that is just awesome to have on your shelf if you like to display them. All right, you know what? We're going to get to a moment that people have been waiting for. We're going to watch Dan, the Amazing Spider-Man fan, and Atomic Tommy battle it out and debate over what the best Spider-Man movie is.
No holds barred.
No holds barred. Enjoy watching this one.
Anything goes.
We'll be back after this segment.
All right.
Here to do the top 5 all-time Spider-Man movies. The biggest Spider-Man fan I know, Dan, the Amazing Spider-Man fan. You've seen him on the food takes, and now he's here to talk about his personal passion, Spider-Man. We're going to go through it. Top 5 Spider-Man movies. As far as I understand, this will include Spider-Man adjacent movies like Civil War or Infinity War, things like that. I'm not sure if it applies, but the Sony movies can be mentioned here, although it probably will not apply in the top 5 all time.
That might be a spoiler alert.
That might be a spoiler alert, but I'm pretty sure it's common knowledge.
Sorry, mademoiselle.
Yeah, deepest apologies. We are ranking these off of enjoyment, okay? This is not a objective critique or anything like that. This is just our personal, top 5, right? So
it's going to be good when he has to have that many qualifiers.
We do. I know exactly. Okay, we gotta be specific. Now we're gonna go one at a time. Okay, starting at 5, working our way down to 1. At my 5, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think it is better than the first one, and it has only gotten better with time. At release, the movie was pretty clowned, and it's not the greatest movie. There are a lot of problems with it. I'm looking at Dane DeHaan in particular. But at the end of the day, visually, I think it's one of the best movies visually. One of the best suits. Electro was great. And anytime
Jamie Foxx.
Anytime we can get Hans Zimmer in a Spider-Man film, I'm happy. So, great movie.
Greatest composer ever.
I think it has only gotten better. A lot of the smaller details. And just I think the film as a whole stand out a lot more now, putting up against some of the current Marvel stuff.
Okay. At my 5, I put Amazing Spider-Man number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And purely, I really enjoyed Andrew in that role. My critique of him would be that he was too pretty to be Spider-Man, because he's kind of supposed to be more of a geeky guy. But particularly in that first film, the POV of you web-slinging through New York was a childhood dream. Like, that is what everybody wants to do if they're Spidey. Like, they just want to be coasting through New York. So the fact that they did that and probably blew way too much budget on that, I appreciate it nonetheless.
I can see where you're coming from on that. I think my only point is I think 2 took everything from the first movie and improved it.
That's what's hard with these lists, is that, like, well, spoiler alert for future on my list, is when you have the base of the first movie, you can only build up on there, and you're going to appreciate sequels that much more.
Right. And I think, especially with the case of The Amazing Spider-Man, I mean, I think the suit in 2 is better. I think the villain in 2 is better. And, I mean, I do think it's a better movie. But moving on to my 4, Spider-Man Homecoming, right? This is a solid movie. I think, as obviously we'll get to, I think there are 3 that just do it better. But from a starting trilogy, as a Spider-Man movie, one of the things I appreciate it most is Spider-Man, obviously being one of the most popular superheroes, if not the most popular superhero of all time. It just is subject to what a lot of those kind of characters are, and that's frequent reboots, right? Spider-Man's had a lot of reboots, Superman, Batman. And one of the things that my problem with like a Superman franchise or a Batman franchise is that you can only do it so many times, and you can only reinvent the wheel, right? It's why I'm still kind of skeptical on that James Gunn Superman movie, because you can only do a Superman movie so many times.
But you can always bring DC into it.
I can't. Well, there's always a way, right? And with the Tom movies in particular, it really felt like with Homecoming, they actually did something new with Spider-Man's origin. And as we'll get to, spoiler alert, they tie it up and work it in a really creative way. And I really appreciate what they did with that movie. Vulture was great. Michael Keaton was great.
Oh yeah.
We're talking about music here. Michael Giacchino, incredible work. I think a really solid film.
Couldn't agree more. My number 4, original Spidey with Tobey. I mean, that came out. The only other real superhero movie in recent memory would have been X-Men. Right. But when that Spidey one hit, that was it. I mean, the only comparative thing to that point would have been original Batman with Michael Keaton, as far as the complete pop culture takeover of Spidey 1. Everywhere, on anything you could imagine. And just a perfectly solid film, especially for almost 2.5 decades ago.
Yeah, and I'll give you that. It holds up. That movie holds up. And
enough practical versus CGI stuff that, and Tobey got ripped for that one.
Yeah. I think that is a very fair place for that, given what is out now. I think Spidey 1 is...
We have nothing else without... If Tobey's movie didn't hit it out of the park, we aren't having this discussion.
That is very true. And it does deserve some respect for that. But it is unfortunately not going to be on my list. Spoiler alert.
And that's why we don't take yours seriously, and that's why we're getting yours done first.
And that's what... That's right. Listen, no disrespect to Tobey. But I did not grow up with Tobey in the same way that you did.
I mean,
and
he is going to be 13 next week, folks.
Yeah, and he will be 60 going next week. So at the end of the day, one of the things with Spider-Man that we're going to see a lot is just generational gaps, which is why there's going to be one movie in here that's going to really take a lot, which leads into my number 3, No Way Home. Okay, No Way Home's going to be at my 3. It's a great movie. Arguments can be made for it to be higher because it does, like, there aren't very many examples of multiverse movies that take generational cameos and really, really pay off like No Way Home does. I mean, you take away Tobey and Andrew and you have a pretty mediocre film, all things considered. And if they weren't in the movie...
Above average.
Sure, I'll give it to you. If they weren't in the movie, it really probably would not have been as good.
No.
But because they are, it is that good. And we can talk about, cameo fatigue or if it's really that good, but at the end of the day, it united generations. It did something I don't think any film has ever done, and that's take 3 individually cast of the same character and bring it together. Mm-hmm. I can't put it any higher because I think there are just 2 movies as standalone Spider-Man films without the cameo crutch that just are able to accomplish everything better. But tying back to what I said about Homecoming, I think it really brings together Tom's origin as Spider-Man in a really creative and new way. still getting to those fundamental elements of with great power comes great responsibility and learning to be independent. Again, in a new way that we didn't see with Tobey or Andrew.
Yeah. Well, and number 3 for me is Homecoming. The first Tom Holland movie in the MCU, first full Spidey movie in the MCU. I mean, it, I guess, plays to me as a kid that was born in the 80s, very John Hughesy, very high school-y oriented, and I just think that they played to his, Tom being the youngest actor to be Peter Parker. I just thought it was such a solid movie, different take, very different from anything else in the MCU to that point and through now. I mean, there's nothing else like that. And dealt with his origin kind of in a very light brush stroke way. Talked about it, but really didn't do the whole I've got to watch Uncle Ben get murdered again. And you've already talked about it in this, and I mean, everybody's seen it at this point, hopefully, and I mean, it's a solid film, right in the middle for me at number 3.
It's kind of interesting how Iron Man was such a big part of Tom's Spider-Man, and a lot of people made a really big stink about it at the time. But again, I personally really liked it because it was different and it fit within the universe. I mean, Tom's Spider-Man was introduced through the MCU in Civil War. I don't think it would really make a lot of sense, given the connection they established, to completely ignore it in any of his films.
Well, if you really want to get in depth, I mean, Peter grew up without a father figure.
Right.
Tony comes in, obviously probably the coolest dude in the planet.
Right.
In that universe, and he takes an interest in Peter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, it's hard for anybody to not be latching onto that, because you're going to feel an emotional tug for that.
Yeah.
Which obviously pays off in Infinity War and Endgame, right? Because some of the biggest emotional punches in those movies are because of the connection and dynamic of Tony and Peter.
Absolutely.
Which, if we don't have Homecoming, Civil War a little bit, but Homecoming especially, if we don't have that movie setting that up, we don't. I mean, some of the most gut-wrenching moments in cinematic history. Yeah, not
absolutely.
Just the MCU. Like, it's because of Homecoming. So
absolutely, and I think that is very, very fair. But coming up to here, number 2, looking at your list, this is probably the last time in this segment that we're going to agree on something, because my number 2 is Spider-Man 2. Yes, we are agreeing. My number 2 is Spider-Man 2, Tobey, and your number 2 appears to also be...
You guys are first to see this. We've agreed on something for the first time in history.
I think... and again, this is where we're going to really see that, because so far it's been pretty tame, right? Yep. We're pretty much talking about the same kind of things, a little bit of disagreement here and there, but once we get to number 1, I think is where we are going to really, really clash here. But Tobey Spider-Man 2, I think, is the best Tobey Spider-Man movie. I think it takes...
not a question.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think it takes everything that Tobey is with Peter Parker, Tobey's Peter Parker, and really elevates it. I think Spider-Man 2 is really where Tobey shines as Peter Parker, as you see the more comic book-esque struggle with dealing with the...
You keep talking about, and that is why it is so elevated compared to some of the others, is that it is a Peter Parker story,
right? And
not just a Spider-Man thwip.
And I think, and people have talked about this forever, but it really is true. Between Tobey and Andrew, Tobey was a great Peter, Andrew was a great Spider-Man, but Tobey wasn't really a great Spider-Man, Andrew wasn't a really great Peter Parker. And again, you really see Tobey shine as Peter in this movie, and Alfred Molina, incredible as Doc Ock. I think that's just, he was the highlight in No Way Home, I think, for me personally.
Also kind of a father figure.
Right.
Authority, taking interest in him, really elevating him up. So again, you kind of have the realistic dynamic,
and that's why Doc
Exactly.
Ock is one of my favorite Spider-Man villains, especially not to get into the video games, but the first PS4 Spider-Man game deserves a mention somewhere in here because it does an amazing job with that dynamic.
Pun intended, amazing.
Pun intended, indeed. But yeah, Spider-Man 2, it's a classic in the superhero genre.
Best superhero movie to that point.
To that point, yeah, absolutely.
That came out in 2004. That was the best superhero movie that has come out to that point in time, period.
Spider-Man 2, incredible. Moving on to number 1. Dan, I'm going to let you give your number 1 first.
Oh.
I'm going to be nice. I want to be nice.
Also a first for him. He mentioned it earlier. My number 1, just because of the perfect mix and the cameos, No Way Home. Best Peter Parker actor is Tom Holland. He is Peter Parker, which is what makes his performances so elevated. That's what makes him stand out. Anybody could be Spider-Man. You know, you put on a suit, you've got the green dots on you, anybody can do that. But what makes Tom so special is that he just embodies that character so well. And then the drawback, of coming back into the fold. We got Andrew Garfield, we got Tobey Maguire coming in. So having the 3 Spideys, just for that meme of the
pointing,
the pointing, but just having them all together is a Spider fan dream.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the villains. Norman was great. We got Alfred Molina back for Doc Ock, great. We got Jamie Foxx back. I mean, just having all of that come back was just wow. And much like Avengers 1, where at that point in 2012, we're like, how are you going to make that work when all of these pieces were from so different a place, and it just fit perfectly.
Yeah.
No Way Home, without all the cameos and all the actors coming back, would not be number 1 on the list.
Right.
But because of that, I mean, I just, without thinking too deeply and getting too much into it, I'm like, that's going to be the number 1 just because all my Spideys are there with.
Yeah, and again, very, very fair. As I mentioned, there is definitely an argument to be made for that movie to be number 1, and I think you made it very well. However,
also a first.
However, I am quite a bit insulted at you, and I'm beginning to think you might not know ball, because there's a movie missing from this list, which is my number 1, Into the Spider-Verse, the greatest Spider-Man movie of all time. Now,
I'm sorry, I just heard the booze. Can you guys keep it down?
Now, I have throughout this given very fair and adequate respect to each individual Spider-Man actor.
I will agree with that.
They all deserve their place. They all deserve the fame that they are credited for. But Spider-Verse goes beyond the actors, okay? They go beyond the person playing the character, and they go into what makes the character. Into the Spider-Verse is not just the greatest Spider-Man movie ever made because Nicolas Cage is in it, or because Miles Morales. Everybody likes Nick Cage. Or not just because Miles is the main focus, but because it's a Spider-Man story that applies to any and all Spider-Man. It's not just about Miles. It's not just about Gwen. It's not just about Peter, respectively. It's about what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man, and the kind of mentality and inner conflicts that a Spider-Man or Spider-Man needs to deal with to be successful. It was a very powerful movie, and it hit every beat it needed to with the character perfectly. It didn't have the problems of actors not being good at one part of it, or oh, well, he was a great Peter, but he wasn't a great Spider-Man, or, well, it focused way too much on this, or the villain wasn't this or that. No, it hit every beat perfectly.
I think that's very fair, and I respect you saying that, even though you're wrong. but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and that is why.
Yeah.
I see. But here, I'm interested. Why was it not on your list anywhere?
It just the chaotic pace of storytelling was too much. I appreciate it for the aspects of what you said. It did not focus on a single character, a single Spidey, but it was flash motion. It was just way too chaotic in its storytelling method.
And I think, again, this is where that generational gap really hits.
Oh, I'm old.
Because for me, that's part of what made it so great. I mean, just from an animation perspective, that movie completely changed the way studios go about animating. I mean, it's because of that movie that you have all of these different animated styles coming into play right now. And it's why you had Star Wars, Clone Wars really try and amp up their style. It's why you had Marvel really experimenting with a lot of different styles, and it's why you had Turtles play into their style. It's why you had DC try to get into it a little bit more. It was because of that movie that really, I think, revived animation here in the West.
And I guess personally, I wasn't a big fan of that style.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying it was bad, but just the style of animation and the chaotic storytelling and frantic pace of it, that was what turned me off. Not the characters. Again, as a fan, I don't know every single Spider-Man variation of the comics
Sure.
ever.
Yeah.
Probably nobody does.
No.
Well, R.I.P. Stan Lee. But beyond that, it was cool to see Spider-Man Noir when Nick Cage comes out. Now he's getting his own series. Cool. Yeah. I didn't dislike any of the individual characters, but it was just the animation style was meh. The frantic
That
story.
is a wild take. Holy. That is a wild take.
You heard it
That's
here, folks.
Crazy. Anyway, I think we're gonna have to agree to disagree on this because that is a wild take on the animation. But I understand. I understand. No, seriously.
See the button? Push it.
Pushed it.
Boom.
I understand where you're coming from, and I can see it is a fast-paced movie, much faster than Tobey's Spider-Man 1, or really any other Spider-Man movie. It does move fast, and there is visually a lot more. There's a lot more characters, right?
Yep.
So I understand where you're coming from. I disagree, but I understand. We do have a couple of honorable mentions. So we have one honorable mention apiece. Spider-Man 3. Tobey's Spider-Man 3, my honorable mention. People don't like that movie. Personally, I thought it was a lot of fun.
I thought it was fine.
Great. I not the greatest movie, not the worst movie. Very fun. Gets a bad rap.
Visually, Venom in that movie, I
Great.
liked it.
Great.
I enjoy that. I think that holds up today.
I agree.
Yep. And I guess I kind of split mine, if that's possible here. I don't know, but I threw in Civil War just because, that was kind of the intro to Tom Holland. If you want to say that's his short film, because he was,
Sure.
it was about 15 minutes of that movie where it was Spider-Man focused, and then he got his ass kicked in an airport and went home.
He did.
I do Infinity War for the emotional punch of, because, I remember seeing that movie in theaters, and that when you walk out, that place was silent.
Oh yeah, that was a hit. That was a hard-hitting moment of that movie.
And again, without Civil War, without Homecoming, we don't care as much about that. Mm-hmm. But the fact that the snap happens, and Tom is being held by Tony, and they don't specifically mention it, but it's his spider sense, Peter Tingle,
right?
That he can tell that the snap happened, and he's like, Mr. Stark?
Yeah. I feel so good.
Whoa. So that hit. And so, as far as Spidey moments, Spidey movies, those aren't really Spider-Man full movies, but, Civil War can be a Spidey short film, and that emotional hit of the snap with Spidey.
It's unfortunate how all of that was followed up with maybe the worst Spider-Man movie of all time, Far From Home. That is unfortunate, but we're going to save that for another day. Dan, thank you for joining me to talk Spider-Man movies. It was a pleasure as always, and we will see you next time.
Hold on, I want to do this.
That is a false mic drop. That is a false mic drop.
That was real.
Well, like I said back at the shop, make sure you let us know what you like, what you don't like for Spider-Man movies. We want to hear your take on that. What did you think about that debate?
I do agree with some of the takes, but I thought it was funny with all the back and forth talk behind.
I thought it was funny the back and forth. I think Atomic Tommy is just. I have to say that I'm out there with Into the Spider-Verse. I think it was a cool, well done movie, but because it was just not my style. I like live action.
Yeah.
I like live action or all animation. I don't like an in between of live action and animation. I'm kind of that's why that wouldn't be my favorite. But anyway, let us know what you like. Smash the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and also it is time for shout-outs. Let's get some shout-outs, Matt and JD. Thank you for supporting us and watching us. Also, Dan, we're not going to put you at the top of the list this time because you're already on the show. So, Jamie, shout out to you. Rick and Melissa, always, we love you guys. Great to see you guys back up. Rick, it's great to see you back up around hopping into the shop. So, we always like to see that. Of course, Jimmy the Souser, he's back in the mix. Jimmy the Souser. We want to give a shout out to you. Caleb, David, a.k.a. Superman fan David. Thanks for always watching and supporting us. Mark, and hi, Mark, Aquaman fan. We love seeing you back at the shop. Tax season is over. You're back to being out and being able to play with friends. We love it. Jeff, Ryan, Brian, and Brian, Liz, and, of course, Diane and the Gossipers family. Pat, we appreciate you watching. We're looking forward to seeing you hopefully this weekend if you can make it. Larry, and then, of course, Sydney. So we want to give you guys a special shout out. With that being said, thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you subscribe again. And we also will have an announcement next week. We're going to have a new store location coming.
Yes.
And so we're going to leak that out.
Tuned
so stay
and follow
tuned
us
for
on
next
Facebook
week.
for that.
Yeah, follow us on Facebook. Make sure you know what's going on Facebook, MN. Most Wanted Comics MN on Facebook to make sure you follow all the details of up and coming events, and also on the move next week. So have a great week, everybody, and we will see you next time.
Peace.